let's talk about breakout performers. Give me some holdovers of players that you believe are ready to take that next step.
Yeah, guys that were here last year and did a little bit, but maybe ready to step up. One guy that's really interesting to me is Keyron Crawford. Okay, he transferred to Auburn last year. He was a basketball player in high school. So, he was just sort of learning football at Arkansas State. He came to Auburn, backed up Jalen McLeod last year. I think he only recorded one tackle for loss, or maybe it was one sack. I don't remember exactly the numbers, but not very productive as a backup buck or outside linebacker as a pass rushing position. But he's had a great offseason. His coaches and teammates keep talking about him during workouts and during spring. So that's a guy just to watch. I'm with guys like that. I've got to see it to believe it, right? Because the production hasn't been there yet. But
Yep.
boy, oh boy, his teammates sure think he's ready to step up. So he is definitely one to watch. I feel like on the defensive front there, and Auburn definitely has to have somebody step up as a pass rusher with Jalen McLeod moving on to the NFL, getting a shot there. Another defensive lineman, a freshman last year, Morris Williams. He was a highly recruited kid. Auburn flipped him from Florida late in the process. Extremely talented. Could be the next Keldrick Falk type player. Needed to grow up a little bit, needed to toughen up a little bit, but has had a great winter workout, great spring practice. I think he's a guy that's going to be much more prominent in Auburn's defense and could be maybe the next star defensive line once Keldrick moves on. But you'll see a lot of Morris Williams, I feel like, this fall right away. So that's a couple of guys on defense.
Okay.
Offense, watch for Jeremiah Cobb, the running back. Coach Freeze has said on a couple occasions that he thinks he's going to have a breakout year here. The thing with Jeremiah is he's very athletic, very fast, really good receiver. So maybe he fits into this offense or fits into the offense that Freeze wants to have a
Okay.
little bit better than the other guys. We'll see. They got 4 or 5 running backs who end up being the
Yeah.
guy. So he's definitely one to watch. And then they got a bunch of receivers, the 2 offensive tackles that are here. I can't really name an offensive lineman as a breakout player, right? They're just in there doing the grunt work.
Okay. And which one of these receivers do you think has the ability? Is it Coleman? Is he the one that really has maybe 1,000-yard ability this season?
I think he is number one on that list, definitely,
Okay.
because he's a guy that has that ability to be a big play, stretch the field guy, but he's really, really dangerous in one-on-one situations and going up and winning that 50-50 ball, making plays in the end zone, making those one-handed catches, doing all that stuff. So he's a guy, if he's healthy and the offense is working, could potentially be a first team, second team, all SEC type player, maybe even better than that. We'll see. But I wouldn't rule out Eric Singleton,
Oh
being the
yeah.
number one guy just because of his speed, just because of his big playability. A guy that can play inside in the slot or move outside if you need them to. And that room's just loaded. You got Malcolm Simmons back. I mentioned Sam Turner. You got Bryce Kane, a freshman who I think he may have redshirted last year. Perry Thompson, another 5-star caliber kid they signed a year ago. You mentioned Horatio Fields from Wake Forest, and a couple more freshmen, the Duke brothers. I mean, the Smith brothers, Duke and Eric Smith, also came in, both really terrific athletes. So that's an exciting room. That's the strength of Auburn's offense by far.
So really, you talked about Arnold having to deal with the poor offensive line play and
Yeah.
maybe even some, coaching turnover when you're that young. That's not good. So because the way it looks now, even though they don't have a Jeremiah Hunter, we get that, but still there is you got the offensive line, you've got the receiving unit. This is all set up really for a quarterback to go out there and have a really solid season. And I think the running backs are again, this is Auburn. So
Yeah.
even though they may not have a star this year, they'll be fine. So this has got some great potential offensively as long as Arnold comes through.
It really does. I mean, if this was a normal year, I would be telling you how I think this is going to be a really exciting offense, a breakout offense. It's just been 4 straight years of losing and bad offense. It's hard to, go on that limb and say this is the year it's going to turn around. One thing I also mentioned of the 5 guys projected to start an offensive line, I totaled it up the other day. They played in 170 games combined with 111 starts. You're not going to find many offensive lines around the
No.
country that have those type of numbers. And they got some talented guys there too. It's not just dudes that have been around a while. So that you would think when you see that they're going to be good, but I want to see it on the field.
Sure.
At Baylor. Starting August 29th, right before I'm ready to say yes, absolutely.
Yes.
They're going to get it done.
Have you heard anything regarding whether or not one of these offensive linemen is above the other? Like, have you said, well, this is definitely the guy they're counting on to be like our leader in the next
Yeah.
year or two?
Even though he's a transfer, Xavier Chaplin's the most important
Okay.
guy up there. He plays left tackle. It's a key position. It's a position that Auburn has struggled mightily with finding the right personnel to fit there that could play there. They've had to move Dylan Wade out there 2 years in a row. He's a guard. He's a really good guard. Maybe he could play on the next level as a guard, but he keeps having to play left tackle, and they really want to keep him at left guard. So
Okay.
I think Xavier Chaplin is one of the keys to Auburn's success this season, keeping him healthy, having him in there playing and starting and performing well. He did miss spring with a previous injury, but he is back and healthy and ready to go this summer.
Okay. By the way, I misspoke. It's Jarquez Hunter. I said Jeremiah, but I was looking
Jarquez,
at.
yep.
Yeah, but Jarquez, really, wow. And he goes through a really good situation with the Rams too.
Yeah.
So, it seems like that's the body type that they really like there, because now they've got Corum and of course Williams the holdover. So that could be a really nice backfield, great situation for Hunter. Okay, so offensively, we pretty much have the formula here now. Really strong veteran offensive line, but they got to go out and prove it. But if they do, it's there. Dynamic receiving options, young quarterback that could possibly step up. And if he does, if he steps up and proves that he's every bit as good as everybody thought he is, this offense has an opportunity to be very good this year. So now it's interesting because the defense has been carrying this team for several seasons. And last year it was the front seven. This year it looks like the secondary is going to be maybe the strength of the defense. But how good? And you mentioned, of course, Falk there. Is it? Do you think that there's worry that there's a big drop off as far as the front seven, or is there enough talent in that front seven, including Falk, that if the offense comes through, that this defense will be good enough, if not very good, because they were really excellent last year, but if they could be good enough, if not very good, that Auburn can have a really good season?
Well, I guess if the reason I would be confident in the defense is it's year 2 under DJ Durkin. And I think DJ Durkin is a really talented defensive coordinator. And my experience covering football, for 25 years is you get year 2 under a defensive coordinator like Durkin, the defense gets better. But there are some key players that they have to replace, especially at linebacker.
Yeah.
But I think starting up front, Keldrick Falk, first round draft pick, most likely next spring. Malik Blockton started as a defensive tackle last year. So, you feel like as a true freshman, so you feel like if he can step up, he's going to be a good player for you. Bobby Jamison, Travis Quintrell, a guy whose his playing time has increased every single year coming out of junior college. He's a senior this year, experienced guy. And they went out and signed, I think it was 4 total defensive linemen in the portal just to give them depth. They like the freshmen they brought in there a lot, talent-wise. They just don't want to force them to have to play too many snaps as true freshmen because they know, it's tough for true freshmen. And you also got a guy like Zeke Walker back who can play defensive end or defensive tackle. He's 6'4", close to 300 pounds, just an experienced guy, like a 5th or 6th year guy there. So they have some numbers, some depth. They're going to rotate a bunch of guys. So I think they're fine there. The linebacker position is a little bit shaky, as far as proven guys. You lost 3 big guys from last year. You got Robert Woodyard coming back. He's a junior, but he hasn't played or started much at all.
Okay.
So they're counting on him to, step forward and be that starter at the Mike position. And then we'll just see what some other guys can do. They love a freshman, Elijah Melendez. They brought in Xavier Atkins, kind of an outside guy, a playmaker from LSU. They brought in Caleb Wheatland from Maryland, I believe, another solid, smart guy who just makes a lot of good plays. So we'll see how those linebackers come around, but that's only the question I have on defense. Really, is that position.
Has Auburn, like every program has an identity, even through coaching changes. There's just some sort of thing that you recognize out of a specific program. Lately, not just the last couple of years, but for a while now, it's for Auburn. It's been their defense.
Yeah.
Has that always been the case?
Most of the time, heck, I went to Auburn in the '80s with Pat Dye. Right, I was a student then, and that their identity was absolutely defense. Put a bunch of dudes in the NFL on those teams, but I do feel that way. I feel like Auburn has gotten away from that identity a little bit in the last 4 or 5 years, just with the losing. Right, to me, their identity was being one of the toughest places in the country to play at Jordan-Hare Stadium at night, or when big teams come in. That just hasn't happened enough, right?
Yeah.
If you hear, I know Kirby Smart was asked about it, I think, at SEC Media Days this year. One of the coaches was asked about the toughest place to play, and he mentioned Jordan-Hare Stadium. So, coaches know that this is a really, really tough place to go. Maybe it wasn't Kirby, maybe it was another coach this year. I can't remember exactly who it was, but the history is there, right? They know it.
Yeah.
But the teams just have not been good enough to take advantage of that atmosphere that they have at Jordan-Hare. And if they don't start taking advantage of it soon, that atmosphere is going to disappear, right? So they need to start winning some games, and they need to start winning some games against Alabama and Georgia and some of these big teams they played that they used
That's
to beat
true.
at home.
Yes. Enough of the close losses.
Yeah.
You need to win,
Yes.
and do it maybe even more than once, and then you got something going. Because overall, again, it just looks like they are, and this has been the case. They're a quarterback away from being respectable, a quarterback away from just maybe being a sleeper. Or a quarterback away from turning things around and being really relevant, and maybe being a SEC contender. And now they've got a kid that has that talent. Matter of fact, you talked about the room as we started, and man, just some of those quarterback rooms the last few years, it was like, this is Auburn. It just didn't make any sense. How can an SEC team like Auburn have a quarterback room like this?
Yeah.
And so now it looks like, even though it's not dynamic yet, but on paper it's a lot better. And so there's hope, especially of course with Arnold. And is that what the fans are thinking as well? That, or have they been let down too often that it's like you just said, well, I let's just wait until the games start before I even get a little bit excited.
There's always hope in the preseason, right? But yeah, it's been a tough 4 years for Auburn folks. They're just not used to this, right? It's been tough.
Yeah.
But I would say, if I was looking at Auburn, from not being an Auburn beat writer, right, I would call Auburn a wild card team this year.